Okay. Okay, everybody, welcome. This is the 2024 Spring Sports Parent Meeting. I was kind of doing some calculations here. Zoom didn't, well, or Microsoft Teams didn't really exist when I started doing these, but this is like my, 70 something seasonal sports meeting. So hopefully we get through it in short order, get you guys going to what you have going on tonight. I know that varsity soccer is scrimmaging up in Flint this evening, so those parents won't be on the call. As you can probably imagine, it is difficult to avoid conflicts with spring sports because we start so close to the beginning of the season. And as we've kind of all seen, Mother Nature has returned to remind us who's boss. We had 60s and maybe even touching 70s sometime last week when we really didn't have games going on and really couldn't take advantage of the weather, and now we're back in the 30s and 20s at night. So we'll get through it. Such is life in the great state of Michigan. But we'll get started here. So spring sports, the first point of order here is to understand what spring sports are at Marian. Spring sports are lacrosse, sailing, soccer, softball, tennis, track and field, and even into the summer, equestrian, believe it or not. So a lot of summer competitions through MHJA are in the summertime. We have just one equestrian rider this year going there, and sailing really is a 2-season sport as well. So I know Greg is on the call here tonight. Greg is our parent liaison to sailing, and they sail when it's nice out. So that could be in the fall, could be in the spring. So for those of you who need the telephone number or the email address, many of you see it in the communications that I send out, but that is the office number, 644-1954, and my email address, pretty similar format to a lot of our email addresses here at school. Would like to start our meeting with an opening prayer. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the prayer and where the prayer comes from, because I certainly did not make this one up, but I'll tell you where the resources are when we get through. So in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will find some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend a year building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. This is more of a poem. This is a poem by St. Teresa of Calcutta, otherwise known as Mother Teresa. This poem was written by St. Teresa and is engraved on the wall of her home for children in Calcutta. So some nice reminders to us as we move forward, not only in spring sports, but in Lent and in life. And that and many other prayers come from our Play Like a Champion Today resources that we have available to all of our coaches. We've had our coaches meeting already this spring, and we've really encouraged our coaches to, number one, engage our student athletes in prayer at the beginning or end or both of practices and competitions to help us maintain perspective in what we do. If students want to lead some of those prayers, that's terrific. If not, we have some resources to prompt some of those prayers to help with some of the lessons we want them to carry forward. A little bit about me and some background there on the left. I won't read all of that. The most important thing for you to understand is my core mission. My mission is to help ensure the academic, physical, and emotional needs of your daughter as part of the athletic program and overseeing the coaching staff and those who work in athletics. I exist to serve the mission of the school, and that consistently with all of the standards of the IHM mission and all of the local things that we've been doing here at Marian for so long for the good of our students and our student athletes. Finally, I exist here to support our Marian family to help students grow into being productive adults. When we talked in our coaches meeting, as we often do in many of our coaches meetings, one of our greatest roles in life, whether it be as a parent or as a coach, as a teacher, an educator, is to help our girls get into heaven. So that sounds strange when we're talking about spring sports and all the sports that I just mentioned, but really it's about being better people. It's about living the values and the virtues that we believe in here in a Catholic school and within Marian and our mission and vision and our values. Finally, that little saying there in white is something that I use pretty often. Trust is the currency of relationships. So I believe in positive communication, and that positive communication creates relationships. And when we have strong relationships, we can build trust. And with trust, really anything is possible. So we have a very short season here, just a few weeks really of days that don't have conflicts. And in that really short period of time in that crucible, we're trying to build relationships and trust that will last a lifetime, building lessons that will last a lifetime for our girls. That's a tough mission for our coaches, but we're going to do it. So what are the things that you need to know here? We talked about the mission and vision. And again, I won't read through this, but this is something that is central to all of our meetings and all of our communications that we have with regard to our coaching staff. We have to understand first that we're Catholic. We are college preparatory. We are preparing our girls for the next stage in life. And for our girls, that's college. We're living by IHM values. This is a Christian environment where we have a great history of providing an excellent education for our girls through a strong academic curriculum. And we want our girls to value human diversity, to value conservation, and to live responsible lives of leadership based on the values that they get with you and your household through our shared faith and our education here at Marian. So none of that is lost in what we do on the field or the courts or whatever goes on with activities in spring sports. We want to always keep our communication, our actions central to that Marian mission. Communication. So let's talk a little bit about the parent-coach communication process. So on the left here, you see communications that you should expect from your child's coach. And on the right, the communication that your coach expects from you. So we want to make sure that, and this isn't something that I've created. Athletic directors and athletic departments have stolen this from each other for years and years and years, but it's a great process and one that we want to make sure that we adhere to as closely as possible because times can get tense, emotions can run high, and we want to make sure that we adhere to this communication process so that we can have productive conversations for the good of your daughter, and most importantly, for the good of our teams. So you should expect from your coach to know what they're all about, what their program is all about, and what each level is all about. There should be some consistency if there's multiple levels in a program. And when I mean levels, I mean JV, in some cases this year, JVA and JVB in tennis. You should know what those expectations are that your coach has for your daughter. At Marian, expectations are high academically and athletically. We want to make sure that your daughter has the tools to reach those expectations. The coach should be able to tell you the location of all the practices and contests and team activities. I do want to caution all of you new sports parents out there is that in the spring season, especially, things move really fast. We try to make decisions on weather-related cancellations or field condition-related cancellations by 1 p.m. every day. Those decisions could affect transportation for us, transportation for you. We could move from a competition to a practice. We could be inside, we could be outside. We could postpone to the next day. We could postpone to the next month. We have to maintain flexibility. But as it is, we should have a great plan going into that season on when things are and where they're at. We have all of the letter criteria and the rules and expectations that our coaches have for your daughters individually and as a team. Those have passed through my office, and we support what the coaches are doing with consistency to our mission and vision. And finally, you should understand as a parent what kind of things may result in discipline that will remove competition or remove standing for your daughter. And there's just a few things that our coaches expect from you. If you have concerns, express them directly. That's the healthiest way and the fastest way to reach understanding. Oftentimes, the conflicts that we have arise from misunderstandings. Sometimes, imagine this, parents, sometimes what your daughters tell you at home might not be quite the truth. It might have an element of truth, but it might not be 100% of the way there. Kids sometimes talk in hyperbole, right? Everybody feels this way, Mom. Everybody feels this way, Dad. Coach told us that we were all terrible today. There's a little bit of, they're a little verbose sometimes, okay? So if you have a concern based on what you're hearing from your daughter, talk to our coach. Our coaches, in many cases, through this spring season, will spend more time with your daughters than you will. And so they're going to get to know your daughters very, very well. And if we have concerns, we're going to express them to you as well. If there's schedule changes, with you guys, if something happens, we want you to tell us right away, because we work very hard to make sure you know all the changes that we have as well. If you have specific concerns with regard to the coach's philosophy or how they're saying things, make sure that you're talking to the coach about that if there's something that you don't understand right off the bat, because it's important to understand how we're going to conduct our seasons. So here's some things that are appropriate and inappropriate to discuss with our coaches. There's a lot of times where parents sometimes will see me or they'll talk with others and say, I just don't want my daughter to know that I'm talking with you because she would be mortified that I'm having this conversation with you because I have a concern and I'm not sure how to express it, but she doesn't want me to say anything because she doesn't want to get punished. We don't operate that way. We want to make sure that we're confronting our issues, that we're setting the example for our student athletes and how to endure a conflict and how to resolve a conflict. So some appropriate things to discuss. If you have a question or a concern with how your child is being treated, whether it be by the coach, maybe something that the coach says, or by another student athlete, that's important to discuss. And we urge our coaches to reach out to you as well if they're seeing some things that just aren't quite right with your daughter. That's sometimes harder for our coaches than it is for you because we have a lot of kids to pay attention to, and you're just paying attention to your daughter. So don't be surprised if we're not as really tuned in to what's going on with how they feel if they're not expressing those things to us. So let's remember that the environment that we're creating for them to resolve a conflict is a safe environment. We're teaching them and modeling them how to represent themselves well in a safe environment before they're released back out to the world to do so in college or beyond. So we want to make sure that we're helping you help them grow into great young ladies. Ways to help your child improve. There's a big difference between saying, Coach, why doesn't my daughter play, versus how can they improve? They're disappointed with their role on the team right now, and they want to improve. In what ways can they improve? Now, you should always understand, never is it a checkbox system. Hey, if you do these 3 things, you're going to be an all-state player. Really doesn't work that way because other kids are working hard too. Other teams have dynamics as well. We compete in our sports, and the nature of competition is that sometimes we can't win all of those games. Sometimes not everybody can play in a game, especially at the varsity level, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Issues not appropriate to discuss with the coaches: playing time, team strategy, play calling, and other student athletes. So with regard to playing time and team strategy, that's why we hire our coaches. We have some terrific coaches, coaches that have a lot of experience. Some of that might be playing experience, some of it might be actual coaching experience. That's why they're employed. We have to understand that there has to be an authority on the team that makes sometimes these very difficult decisions, just as we have in the last week with some very difficult decisions on who's placed on what team and where, and sometimes dismissing a kid from a team. Those are really, really difficult decisions that we talk about. We talk about cuts, we talk about squad reduction at length. It's excruciating for our coaches because we know that it's excruciating for families. We take those things very seriously. We can't talk about other student athletes because it wouldn't be fair if we talked about your student athlete without you or your student athlete present. So what happens if you have a concern? This is the procedure that you follow. You got to first contact the coach. If the coach can't be reached, make sure to reach out to me, and I'm going to help make that connection. We never do, if we have a concern over what happens in a contest, we don't want to do that right after a contest. That isn't good for you, isn't good for your daughter. It isn't good for our coach. So we want to make sure that we calm things down. It doesn't mean avoid it, doesn't mean forget about it or bury it down deep. We just want to do it when we have calmer heads and we can have a conversation absent some of the acute emotion that we find in participation. Let's talk a little bit about eligibility. Some of these things, I'll be honest with you, aren't really a focus or really important at times because we have girls that have such great grades. But there are a few things that we need to know. The students have to be passing their classes. If we have any students that have academic deficiencies, we work with a counseling office to make sure that those deficiencies, those deficiencies are rectified. Usually that involves a plan. If the girls aren't working the plan, you probably will be the first to know. And if they're a student athlete and they're not working their plan of deficiency, then we may withhold them from competition. Sometimes that might mean work in a specific class, not multiple classes that they're failing. Sports exist to support our mission. And if we're a college preparatory school, if they're deficient and ignoring their responsibilities in the classroom, we will and have to deny them participation because this is the purpose. Sports serves as the carrot for them to make sure that they're doing what they need in the classroom. Attendance. This is one that is often brought up. Whether we have a shortened day or a full day, the students have to be in class at least 4 of our 7 periods. So that could be the beginning of the day. It could be at the end of the day. Certainly, I want to make sure that everybody understands if your daughter is sick, not able to be in school, it's probably not a good idea for her to be at practice either. We don't want to get all the rest of the team sick. We don't want to push her beyond her boundaries and what she feels comfortable just because she wants to play in a game. So if she's sick, make sure our coaches know. Make sure you're communicating well with attendance, especially those attendance issues that are from an injury from athletics. Our attendance clerk, Mrs. Taseo, is a registered nurse. She shares all of those things with Dawn Thrasher, our athletic trainer, so that we can make sure that we're getting the proper care and helping guide some of our parents through the athletic return to play process that we'll talk about. And very rarely we have transfer eligibility issues. Just understand, and a lot of people might talk about this outside of, you might talk with another parent about a transfer student. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that in the state of Michigan, if a student transfers from one high school to another high school, there's a list of exceptions that they can qualify for that would make them eligible for the sports they had previously played. Those exceptions, although there's 15 of them, are pretty rare. The most common one is a student moves from where they were living to a place where Marian is the closest non-public school. Okay, so there's some other exceptions as well. If a student has played, say, lacrosse at their previous school and moves here and they don't qualify for one of those exceptions, they are eligible for all sports except lacrosse. So if there's a question about this, we usually work this through with the families, with the school that is sending that student to us, or a school that we're sending a student to as well. Also understand that if your daughter plays the same sport in the same season, that she has to get permission from us or talk through with us if she has competition in her same sport. So for example, most softball teams aren't going to play softball games. Travel softball teams aren't going to play softball games during the high school season. However, if that's the case, there is a limited team membership rule that we have to be aware of that affects the eligibility of not only your daughter, but of our team as well. And this applies to not just softball, but to all sports as well. We just want to list these things as a heads up to you so that you can help communicate to your coach and ultimately to the athletic office to clear these things. Let's talk a bit about conduct standards for parents and for students. Sportsmanship obviously is a major factor in school sports. We want to make sure that we are setting the example as adults, and yes, that does include our coaches. We want to model the behavior that supports our mission and all the things that we talked about at the beginning of this call. We want to support our learning environment. So what does that really mean? That means that if you feel the need to yell at an official, imagine as if you're the only two people in a phone booth. And do you really want to yell what you're going to yell out to that person? In many cases, we think that an official might be biased. They might be a homer ref, or they're biased in some way. That's not the case. I know a lot of officials. I'm an official myself, and we just want to see the game go well. We want to be as fair as we can. Our officials are amateurs. They're amateurs officiating an amateur contest with amateur coaches. Okay, let's keep it all in the right perspective. And speaking of perspective, I want to make sure that you're aware that there is an absolute officials crisis in the state of Michigan and across the United States. I've brought up lacrosse in a couple of examples. In girls lacrosse in the state of Michigan, there are barely more officials than there are teams playing. So when we have trouble rescheduling a contest because of some sort of conflict, and remember, we deal with another school that has a lot of conflicts, right? In the spring, we deal with officials that have their own conflicts and a very short supply of them. And it's not always easy to reschedule games. In a number of different sports, we've tried to reschedule to different days because of conflicts and have been told no, because the official supply is so very low. So let's respect our officials. In fact, officials rates are rising. Officials rates we expect to go up by nearly 60% next year to support the supply and demand. So if, as you're, and especially, and I'm serious about this, as your daughters progress and graduate, if you enjoy the sports that they've played and you want to stay involved, become registered as an official. It's a great way to stay involved. It's a great way to not have a large commitment, but you make a few bucks in the meantime, and you get to be around the game that you love. So I really encourage, if you're interested at all in officiating, then come and talk to us, and we'll make sure that you get hooked up with the right people. With regard to our students and our student sections and what we do at games, we really have a pretty great reputation when it comes to that. But we want to always impress upon our girls that we cheer for our teams, not against the other teams. And that as part of competition, we're competing with, not against, other schools in high school sports. and that's really it's one of the big lessons that we can teach to our girls is that, sometimes there is a bad call. Sometimes life isn't fair. That's part of the maturation process. So again, remember that we have to set the example. The expectations that we have for coaches are the expectations that we have for you. Now, our coaches have to have sometimes some pretty pointed discussions with officials, and I'll oversee that. But we want you guys to work together to make a positive environment for our girls. Training expectations. Marian student athletes are subject to the handbook that we have 365 days a year. So what I've always said, and I've said as a coach, is that the rule is every decision that I make, does that decision support or destroy my team and what we've put together and what we've worked for? Those decisions could revolve around substances, whether it be drinking or otherwise, social media and what we post. I'm not here to monitor, nor are our coaches here to monitor all of your daughter's social media. I know as a parent, it's a daunting task to do that for my own kids, let alone to do that for a few hundred other people's kids. So we need your help with that. But when we see things that are a concern, we're going to bring them to your attention, and we're going to help solve that problem to help our young ladies mature. Sometimes our expectations are, and the things that can help a team or destroy a team is in what you say and what you do, and sometimes what you don't do. So we want our kids, and we want you as parents, when you see another parent or you see somebody acting poorly that doesn't represent the school, we want to be comfortable enough to confront those things, because we want the best possible reputation for Marian moving forward. And sometimes that isn't always the easiest thing, because we're usually pretty successful, and sometimes people don't like us for that. Remember, as I mentioned before, this is a short season. Weather's really, really tough. Our facility situation is usually really, really tough. We need to be flexible. So what we can't have is an attitude where, okay, I'm going to look at the season, and anytime where a coach didn't schedule a game or a practice, we're going to make a commitment to go someplace or to, within reason. Hey, coach, you didn't schedule a game on this day, so you can't reschedule. We're not available. Make sure that if you have some of those days where you're not going to be available, that you're communicating in advance to the coach, so we know the days that we can't reschedule. But you have to be flexible, or else we can't have the games. And to have this participate on our teams and to have this experience, we have to play the games. And sometimes that's very difficult if we're not flexible. Finally, we want to make sure that everybody remembers that participation on our teams and in the sport is a wonderful privilege, full of many opportunities and many lifelong lessons, but it is not a right. We have to control the outcomes that we want to see by making sure that everybody is reaching the expectations that we communicate. Values as actions. I constantly talk about how we have to be partners with our parents. We exist and our programs exist here to help you raise your daughter in an effective way. That's one of the reasons why you chose Marian as an educational outlet among many other choices. We want to make stronger young women. Our connected values inform our decisions. So in everything that we do, we want to make sure that the team always comes first instead of the individual. That's consistently talked about, not only verbally, but through our actions. We want to also make sure that leadership is accessible by all of our students, whether they're ninth graders or they're seniors. What can you do for the team right now? That's your value. So sometimes you can work while you wait in a drill. Sometimes you can go through the mental reps. These are all the things that we talk to our girls about preparing for their opportunities to play. Every single day, we want to get a little bit better than we were the day before. That commitment to constant improvement has to be a hallmark of our programs, and it has been for several years, and why we've been successful. With regard to mental toughness, Dave Boyer, our head strength and conditioning coach, is on the call here. Dave and Kate Kolangowski, our assistant strength and conditioning coach, one of their things, and we'll talk about it in just a couple of slides here, is mental preparedness and mental toughness. So Dave is an absolute expert at some of the sports psychology pieces to help our girls develop the resiliency and the grit important for them to be successful, not only now, but in life. So sometimes it is about putting the past behind us, maybe even a recent failure, and focusing on the next most important thing. So when we talk about toughness, it's not always physical toughness, although that's important as well. But sometimes we progress as human beings when we're mentally tougher than we were just a day ago. Again, leadership accessible by all. We want to make sure that we're conveying to our girls that making others around you better and more productive is the point of leadership. So it's not rank based. It's not seniority based. Again, it's about making those around you better. We always say that seniority is your intellectual property. If you're a senior, then you've accumulated some knowledge and you've accumulated some experiences that give you some intellectual property, right? Gives you some awareness of what might come next and what's most appropriate moving forward. If you don't use that to your advantage as a student athlete or on our teams to positively affect others, then that experience and seniority, that intellectual property, is wasted. So that's something that we try to elicit out of our older students for the benefit of our younger students. But ultimately, again, leadership needs to be accessible by all of our students. All right, let's talk about some of our resources and some of the practical things that you should know moving forward. First and foremost is our athletic website, marianmustangs.com. So this is a very comprehensive website. We feel one of the best in Michigan. We work very hard to promote our programs with a wide variety of stories and pictures. Leon Hallop provides a wonderful service to us that makes this possible with his photography. But there are a lot of terrific resources here, and this is your first stop. So this will include our practice and game schedules. So you can't see it very well on this little icon, this laptop icon, but under Inside Athletics at the top is a composite schedule. That is a amalgamation of all of the Sports U calendars that we have. So if you want to see what's happening on a daily basis, this is how our school understands who is practicing and who is competing, where and when on a daily basis, is that composite calendar, which you can link. If you want to see everything in a day, you can link to your own calendar program and subscribe to that. You can get notifications. We do registration through Final Forms, as you know, for school and through athletics. So started here as an athletic registration process. It's moved to school registration. It's been so effective. A link to GoFan. We'll talk about tickets here in just a minute. Our NFHS streaming opportunities. So unfortunately, we don't have a stadium. We don't have an outdoor fixed camera for grandpa and grandma to see, if they live out of town, to see some of our games. However, we will pick up broadcasts from schools that we visit. Those will be available on the NFHS platform. There's information here on the Marian Athletic Club. Again, photos, lots of things at marianmustangs.com. That's your first stop for anything. Everything that we talk about is linked from this site. Final Forms we're very familiar with as parents and as coaches. Again, this is how we email out to you. There is a feature that they may be adding adding texting to this in the future. Right now, we use this as an email platform. So when you get important team emails, or departmental emails, it comes through Final Forms. Dawn Thrasher, our trainer, tracks our medical reports through Final Forms and houses them with your student's profile. We do all the concussion testing and tracking through Final Forms for a variety of sports, the contact sports. We house our physicals there. We track our coach and our teacher certifications through there. This is a very effective tool for us. And on all of our coaches' phones, they have Final Forms as a shortcut, most importantly, as an emergency tool. So once they start typing the first couple letters of your daughter's last name, all of your phone numbers, your emergency contacts are clickable and accessible within seconds. That's one of the most important things that you should know. Secondly, you just got an email this afternoon from me that now payments are open. The payment that we're talking about is the athletic department participation fee for spring sport athletes. As I detailed in that email, this is a fee that helps us offset the cost of participation in school sports. It certainly doesn't cover everything, but it helps us cover some of our costs. And it doesn't include some of those team-based fees that you have for some of the extras that you might have, like banquets or lodging, trips, things like that. So we go through and we review all of the added costs that you have to endure as a part of participation with your daughter's team to help make it a successful experience. So those payments are payable only through Final Forms. It's a $200 fee per sport, per student, and we want to collect those by March 28th through the app. Next is GoFan. So we moved this year to a digital-only ticketing option. So in spring sports, in lacrosse, and in soccer, we charge a fee so that will be paid at the gate. It's a $6 fee with a $1 convenience fee, so $7 total to all patrons. We moved to this platform because it's what the MHSA had used for state tournaments. You see a picture there of our card readers. So you can buy a family pass. So even at $125, if there's a couple people in your household, a husband and a wife, even for one season, it's probably a good price to pay. And you have that pass on your phone every single time. You don't have to buy individual tickets for every single game. So it's a really great value. If your daughters participate in more than one season, or you have more than one daughter here at Marian, it's a terrific value. And these are for regular season contests at Marian only. Also, just as an added thing with GoFan, all of our camps, our summer camps this year for youth and for high school, are now on GoFan as well. Many of you may have seen that release recently. SportsU has been wildly popular here. We use SportsU as our team communication app for all of our teams, especially those in spring season. So this is how we can get that important information to you very, very quickly. But there's some requirements and responsibilities that our coaches and our team parents have to make sure that this is up to date. So if your daughter, if you happen to have a daughter that hasn't signed up for SportsU, we need them to do that. All of the flyers with the QR codes and the join codes are on the bulletin board just outside the senior lounge. If there's anybody out there who has an issue not knowing how to sign up, please contact your team coach, contact me, and we'll make sure that we get you set up there. So what we do is we set the schedules in the athletic department along with the coaches, and then with the coaches and the team parents, they put everything into their calendar, and it has to be accurate and it has to be up to date because it feeds that composite calendar on a daily basis of what we're doing. So if we have changes, we're going to send notifications out just like a text message. If there's things that we need to post, like some of those important, the fee email also went on SportsU. There's a lot of things that can be put on there. I know that John Bingham is on this call. We'll talk about MAC in a minute. John posted some YouTubes of a banquet and the basketball banquet just this week. So a lot of really valuable information there. All right, health and safety. Again, Dawn Thrasher is in her 20th year here at Marian as our certified athletic trainer. She's contracted through the Henry Ford Health System, can help if your daughter happens to unfortunately have an injury. She can help with the referral process. She can put you in front of Henry Ford docs very, very quickly to help get your daughter back in the game. She's available daily and after school and at home contests. We want you to understand that if your daughter is removed from competition or practice due to an injury, we need to have physician's clearance for her to return. That's our return to play process. Oftentimes we'll get that physician return to play. Dawn will check them out, make sure there's no lingering issues. We put that clearance in your daughter's final forms profile, and back she goes with the exercises or the rehab assignments that she or her doctors assign. Concussion protocol. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that there's a more specific return to play process when it comes to concussions. So as we talked about, we house our concussion pre-test data in final form. So Dawn will work with those contact sports to establish a baseline test. And in the event of an injury, they take a post-test. That post-test is prepared with the pre-test to assess cognitive function, along with physician clearance and the student being asymptomatic of all things from the concussion. The student may return to play. This isn't just our rule. This is state law. This is also reportable to the MHSAA because it's become such an important thing. Also understand that each of our coaches have to take concussion training, concussion education training every 2 years. So we're very serious about the concussion return to play process. If your daughter talks at all about any sort of symptoms that may be indicative of a concussion, don't wait. Let's get them checked out. Let's make sure that there's no lingering effects from any injury that they may have. All right, strength and conditioning. Our strength and conditioning program is called MAP, the Marian Athletic Performance Program. And as I mentioned and kind of previewed, Dave Boyer is on the call. Kate Kolangowski is a great resource here. Kate is just finishing up her experience at Wayne State. She's a college athlete, a high school athlete, does a great job. And as you can see, we see the MAP experience as a sturdy stool with 3 pillars. Strength and conditioning, obviously, is the meat and potatoes of the MAP program, but making sure that we have nutrition resources for your daughters is important. And we alluded to the mental skills performance training. So those are the things that keep our stool intact. If any one of those legs is failing in some way, the stool isn't effective, right? So we want to encourage you to talk to your daughter about the strength and conditioning, the MAP program. We're in the process of making sure that our coaches are involved with that. Excuse me. In the spring, I'll be honest with you, it's very, very difficult because there's not a lot of time for our teams to practice, for them also to go through strength and conditioning sessions, get homework done, do all of those things that they have to do. But we're gonna give it a shot, because what we want to do first is we want to prevent injuries. We want to get kids, secondly, back into play faster. And thirdly, we want to make them better than they ever were before, whether it's from a strength and conditioning standpoint, whether it's resiliency and mental skills training, or whether it's just understanding how to fuel their body effectively. To be honest, one of the biggest problems that we see here at Marian, just anecdotally, is body image issues, not eating at lunch, not enough caloric intake, not the right foods. This is a teenage issue in general, but really an important female teenage issue as well. So make sure that you understand that there are resources here in the athletic department for those things. And as we build our program and build it upon great expertise of Dave and Kate and Dawn Thrasher, that we're going to get better every day from that. So we're building that program moving forward. Dave, is there anything that you want to add there?
No, I think you touched on everything regarding the map. The key is that the nice thing about the mental performance is that once we get everything established and the young ladies are involved in the strength and conditioning in the MAP program, they're going to have access to the mental performance aspect of it inside the strength and conditioning because of myself being the mental performance coach also. So it's going to work in unity, as they go through their strength conditioning program, which is going to be a beneficial aspect for them as they move through their sports career.
Thank you, Dave. Dave has worked in professional sports, so we are so lucky to have him at our level. I've known Dave for a number of years, and he's simply one of the best out there. He's not only a certified athletic trainer like Don, but he's also a certified strength and conditioning specialist. So he will oversee the building and implementation of our programs through our on-site coach, Kate Kolengowski. So if you have questions, please reach out to Dave or Kate or I. Don Thrasher as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Marian Athletic Club, or MAC. Our co-presidents this year are John Bingham and Janelle Dawson. You see there. I have Lori Irvins from last year's team that didn't take. So we'll make sure that on our MAC page on our website, we have John's email address. Sorry for that typo there. The MAC is wonderful to us. So in addition to the great programs like the MAC Golf Outing, they've sponsored an incredible event that is now in its third year in the Marian Athletic Hall of Fame. There's also some other fundraisers, bag chairs. You've seen a message on Sports U about our bag chair sales and our meetings. So not only do they operate the concession stands, they do all those things, all for the good of our kids, to help them, to help our teams raise money for their banquets, for their extra experiences that have become really necessary to the Marian experience. So we take some of those things for granted, but there's a lot of really hardworking people, and we want you to get involved. So our Zoom meetings are open to all of the parents out there. If you want to join, even if you're not a parent rep, that's okay. Kind of see how the MAC operates, or if you're the parent of an underclassman and you think, well, maybe that's something I want to get involved with, please reach out to our leadership, attend the meeting. It's really a great group of people who are very supportive of Marian athletics. All right, so help wanted here. Within our lacrosse and soccer programs, we have primarily in those two programs, they use our portable AI supported cameras. So these are the cameras that we set up, and just like our indoor Pixelot camera, we have outdoor Pixelot cameras that follow the action, help us record stats automatically when the film is broken down by others. We also need people that will help us with those stat processes within softball might use Game Changer, lacrosse, soccer might use VidSwap. There's a number of different platforms that our coaches need help. So our parent reps are always helping make sure that we have enough people in place. But we always need people to work our games. And I've been extremely impressed with how professional all of our teams are and making sure that there's people on time, ready to go to serve volunteer functions. So at a lot of other schools, it's very difficult to get people involved. Marian is not one of those schools. So first, I want to say thank you to those who have volunteered. If you haven't and you're willing, step forward. We're always willing to accept help, really to make the experience for our girls even better than it has been in the past. We just did team pictures this past week. So part of that process, we do the VSN pictures for team and for anybody who would like to purchase individual pictures. We also have Leon Hallop on staff here, or on site here, excuse me, to take individual headshots for our rosters on our website, which has been a very popular thing. And Tuesday, April 30th will be our final college signing day. We've had a couple of student athletes sign with colleges already. If there's others that are interested in signing on that day who've gotten later opportunities to join a college team at the next level, we'll do that then. And then one of the more important things that we talk about is transportation with regard to our teams and student athletes. So as you know, we don't really own our own large buses, so transportation is very difficult, and we put a lot of burden on the family. So we certainly appreciate your help getting kids to games where appropriate, and outside of typically 30 minutes or so drive, we try to get buses whenever possible. The buses usually aren't limited because of funds, although it's very expensive for us to secure the buses. They're often not available just because there's not enough drivers out there. There's not enough buses in our bus companies. So transportation has become very difficult, but we work together to make sure that that we're getting safe transportation for our girls whenever possible. In fact, our soccer girls were on a bus to Flint and Atwood Stadium today for soccer. So we try to do that as much as possible with any team. With that being said, we have a picture here of last year's soccer Catholic League championship. We also were fortunate enough to win a Catholic League championship in lacrosse as well. This just happens to be the one that I selected, so lacrosse people don't get too jealous. We hope to get a couple more trophies this season, hopefully. It's always fun. Spring season, I was a baseball coach, so spring season's probably my most hectic and problematic season, but probably my favorite as well. So with that being said, as always, if you have questions, reach out to your team coach. Please reach out to me as well, and hope you have a great season. Thank you.
Thank you.